Hello, everybody. What's up?
Hello.
I'm Reese.
And I'm Adriana. And is this our first OTel event from the End User SIG of the year?
It is, and
Oh my
it's
God.
actually also our first public appearance as community managers.
That's so true. Yay.
That's right. If you missed the news, Austin Parker is stepping down to focus on other important matters, and your community managers are now myself, Adriana, and Julia as well, who could not make the call. But yeah, we're very excited, and we have an excellent first open telemetry and practice of the year for you. But first, I'm coming to you live from Portland, Oregon. We would love to hear where you are tuning in live from, because it's always fun to see different places where people are coming in from.
Absolutely.
Adriana,
And I'm in Toronto, Canada, where we are still covered in snow after getting dumped 60 centimeters a few weeks back. It's still holding. We're getting a real Canadian winter this year. Yeah.
wow, yeah, that's right. The whole East Coast, I think.
Yeah, we got buried.
Dang. Well, it was 60 degrees Fahrenheit here in the Northwest, which is it's warm for
It
us.
is warm. That is warm. Definitely
So,
warmer than here. We're below freezing still.
oh, thank you. We have more in store.
Ooh.
We have a congratulations message on us
Oh, thank
on our
you.
community manager stuff. Ooh, Delft, Netherlands. Oh, hey. If
Welcome.
you are around, we are actually going to be at KubeCon EU in Amsterdam, March
End of
20,
March. Yeah, end of
March 21st.
something.
Yes, the week of the March
I know
20th.
we should know the exact dates, right?
Right, a lot's going on.
I'm gonna Google it. It is jeepers.
20.
March 23rd to 26th is KubeCon EU. Thank you, Google.
Yes. Yeah, but we will be there. We'll have the OTel Observatory and the Project Pavilion booth, as per normal. And yeah, we would love to meet up and hang out if you're around.
And
And
interview new humans of OTel as well. If you participate as a maintainer, contributor, or practitioner, we would love to interview you for our latest one. So, and yes, there will be, I guess, two OTel booths per se. There's the OTel Observatory, which we've had in the last little while since KubeCon Chicago. And then there's the official OTel booth in the CNCF Project Pavilion. So, but I think so. There will be OTel presence in both areas, but definitely the OTel Observatory is happening, and we will be there and excited to interview new humans.
awesome. I'm seeing some people are going to be there. That's very exciting. And others, hopefully, we will see you at the NA one, North American one. And it's just 5 after. So I think if Adriana would like to introduce our
Yes, super excited to have our first OTel in practice of 2026 with the awesome Josh Lee. No relation to Reese Lee.
True story. Thank you so much
True
for having
story.
me. Yeah.
And I just want to vouch for the fact that I have been a co-speaker with both Josh and Reese, and both of you are amazing co-speakers. So I want to give a shout out to both of you.
It's me attempting to do the new generation part.
No, I can't. I gotta do the old school. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
It kicks my fingers a little bit. I have to be like, ugh.
Yeah, no, that's finger cramping. And hello to all the recent joiners to the stream. Thank you for joining us and coming to see Josh talk.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to KubeCon too. It's gonna be awesome. Okay. Should I dig in my slides and dive in?
Yeah.
All
Do
right.
it. And we will have time for Q&A afterwards if you have burning questions for Josh. So keep
Feel
write
free
down
to
your questions in the chat, and we will have a Q&A spot.
And interrupt me if necessary, but I think it's all going to make sense for this crowd. Okay. I don't know how to get my my slides up. There we go. Okay. So we're talking about my home lab. So this is OTel in practice, and the most practicing that I do is in my home lab with my my own servers here that I run. I call it like my FAWS. And the OpenTelemetry collector has sort of become a pivotal part of how I'm doing my monitoring in my home lab. So this is me having fun at some conference. I forget where this was taken. I'm an open source advocate at Altinity. We do hosting and support for ClickHouse, which I'm going to talk about a little bit throughout the presentation. And our lawyers wanted me to point out that we're not affiliated with ClickHouse Incorporated. We're just humble open source contributors. So with that out of the way, what are we monitoring? And here's a picture of one of my little mini racks with some mini PCs on it that I'm working on. But basically what we're monitoring is my mini PC powered home lab. There's some critical services on there, like Image and Paperless, that I actually use like in my day-to-day life, and I need those to be up and running 90-ish% of the time. Most of the hosts are running on Proxmox, and most of the VMs are running on NixOS. And then on those NixOS VMs, there are lots and lots of containerized services, both third-party applications and things that I'm working on. So that's fun. Yeah, so I kind of have like 3 domains or users, if you will. They're all me, but I'm these 3 different people, 3 different hats, right? There's the management and control plane. So really, I'm like acting as a platform team that's providing VM services to these 2 other tenants, and those 2 other tenants are me as like a home lab hoster with stuff that I want to have running, and I want to have the ability to have production and staging environments. And I want to have the ability to like run third-party applications and update them and make sure that the updates don't break. And I want to have access to my data, and I want my data to be really durable. And then I have like my other hat that I wear, which is as a developer. And there, I just use it as like a developing sandbox, right? This is really like my alternative to EC2 for smaller things that I'm working on. And I can get workstations. Now with like NixOS and things, it's really, really easy for me to just spin up workstations that have all of the tools and dot files and everything that I need to get working on something. I can have build servers and like instances of the containerized services that I'm working on. And often I'll also run like ephemeral Kubernetes clusters so that I can run little Kubernetes experiments without sort of in between Minikube and going for like a full EKS cluster in the cloud. So in total, right now I've got 10 Proxmox hosts. Some of them are offline. There are about 20 VMs at any given time. And I have 2 TrueNAS hosts, which I haven't yet integrated into the monitoring pipeline, but that's on my to-do list, is to figure out how to do that. I think that a containerized OTel Collector can certainly help. So what am I actually using to manage all of this? Well, for the Proxmox nodes themselves, I'm using Ansible. For managing the configuration and like definition of the VMs, I'm using NixOS. I am using a little bit of OpenTofu for cloud stuff when it's necessary. That's very, very light. So just like S3 buckets and Route 53 tables and IAM roles for the most part. Having all of this configuration, right? Like having my definition, my inventory in Ansible, having the definition of all of my VMs in NixOS configuration, and having all of that in a single repository. So that's sort of like my version of GitOps that I'm using with like coding assistants like Claude Code. Is really, really powerful. It makes me really happy. Right now, I have to click button. I have to click ops when I want to create new VMs. I can, define the template in my GitOps pipeline, but I have to click ops the actual VM creation. So that makes me sad. But maybe one day there will be an actual like official Terraform provider for Proxmox that is robust and that I feel like using. Okay, so what are my monitoring goals? And here's another stack of mini PCs. These are the i3 1330Ps, I think, which were a pretty awesome deal before the recent pricing went completely off the wagon. But if it ever comes back down again, these were like $250 each, and they're pretty awesome little 12-thread machines. But basically, my main monitoring goal is really just, are my Proxmox nodes healthy? If we're talking about just me, the platform team, providing the service to the other two teams, that's my responsibility, is just to make sure the Proxmox nodes are healthy. And that comes down to these somewhat simple questions, right? Is the memory or CPU oversaturated? Am I running out of disk space? Or are there any VMs like using too many resources or using more resources than I would expect them to be, that I then need to dig into? Switching hats to like one of those tenants. And then in that case, right, if there is a VM misbehaving and I need to dig into the specific containers or services running on that VM, I'm mostly just relying on SSH and journald and Ansible. And that combination with coding assistance is, again, really, really powerful. At the scale that I'm working at with just 20 VMs, it's pretty easy for the coding assistant to figure out where it needs to SSH into, how to check the journal logs, and start giving me a diagnosis on what's going on, so that I can fix it or make an Ansible play to fix it if it's a recurring issue or something. If I had 1,000 services, I might be really hurting for not having centralized monitoring for all of those workloads. But as it stands, I'm getting by. All right, so where did I start with this? I started, I think, where probably most home labs start. I use some of these fan favorites. We have Loki, we have Prometheus, and we have InfluxDB. And mostly I use these because they came with off-the-shelf integrations with the other tools that I was using, namely Proxmox and Docker. So for Docker, I have the CAdvisor exporter. For Proxmox, there's a built-in InfluxDB metrics server that contains information about all of the VMs running on that node or on that cluster. So that's really, really useful. And I have that hooked up to InfluxDB, which then has an off-the-shelf dashboard for Grafana. So that's really convenient. And then I was using OTel and Loki for my both my Proxmox host logs as well as the VM logs. And this worked pretty well. But I'm biased. I work for a company that does ClickHouse stuff, and I give talks all the time about how I think everyone should be using ClickHouse for their monitoring and observability as a single solution. So I needed to dog food this and be using this in my own home lab. So just to introduce ClickHouse real quick, for those not familiar, it's open source. It's Apache 2.0. It is runnable as a single binary. It's SQL compatible. It's columnar, so it's an OLAP database. As I was trying to depict with that SR71, it is insanely fast. It can run on anything from a Raspberry Pi to 256 core clusters in the cloud. And it's really, really good at high cardinality, which makes it awesome for observability if you're lazy and don't feel like managing or watching your cardinality budget. This is kind of how it fits in. So there's an exporter for ClickHouse that runs in the OTel Collector. And then there's a Grafana data source plugin for ClickHouse. So you can kind of just use SQL all the way through. I think SQL-powered observability is awesome. And if you want to see my talk where I talk about how you can use ClickHouse as sort of your all-in-one solution, there's a QR code and the URL. I'm thinking we can probably put this in the notes as well. But yeah, I just think it's awesome. So I needed to get it into my own home lab. And just one more thing I want to nerd out about on ClickHouse, and then I'll get back to the OpenTelemetry stuff, although this is also OpenTelemetry, and that's what's really cool about it. So ClickHouse actually has built-in OpenTelemetry traces that you can turn on. And so if you want trace spans for the ClickHouse portion of whatever your application is doing, or if you're just running queries in ClickHouse and you want those to be traced across the distributed cluster, you can turn this on and get OpenTelemetry compatible spans that are stored inside ClickHouse and that you can export to a collector or to your trace backend and combine with your other traces, which is just freaking awesome and evidence of OpenTelemetry. OpenTelemetry is sort of taking over and also empowering this kind of built-in observability that's out of the box compatible with so many tools. Okay, so what is OpenTelemetry? No, I'm kidding. If you're on this call, I'm going to assume that you know what OpenTelemetry is. Often when I'm presenting it to people who are less familiar with it, right, I use this diagram, which sort of lays out all the parts. Adriana and I have used this exact slide on some of our talks together, right? So surely within this bag of parts, there's something that I can use to shoehorn some ClickHouse into my observability of my home lab. So this is what I have, and we're going to add some OpenTelemetry, and it's going to make everything awesome. Oh, so I kind of made a mess. I just like layered OpenTelemetry up on top and hooked everything up that I was already doing, and it didn't really solve any of my problems. It just created new problems and created more connections to manage. And I have this complete spaghetti mess of connections. So we can probably do it better, right? Let's do it the OpenTelemetry way. So the OpenTelemetry way is to actually use an OpenTelemetry collector as both an agent, replacing Promtail and some of those Prometheus exporters, and to use it as a gateway. So what really enables this and enables that last arrow of influx going into the OpenTelemetry collector is the InfluxDB receiver that's available in the OpenTelemetry collector. So this simplifies things a lot. It gives us a single pipeline for metrics and logs coming from the host. And it gives us, I did maintain the duplication into InfluxDB because while I was setting up my new dashboards, I wanted to have something to check against to make sure that I had accuracy. One thing to note looking at this, it's always really helpful, I found, when you're trying to monitor something, to go like one layer up to whatever it is that's orchestrating the thing that you're trying to monitor. So if you have a bunch of things running as systemd services, right, journald is a really great place to get the logs for all those things, rather than trying to go into each one of those things and try and teach it where to send your logs. And similarly, if you have a bunch of VMs and you want to know how much CPU and memory and things they're using, you could certainly install a Prometheus node exporter or an OpenTelemetry collector with a host metrics receiver on each one of those VMs and get that information. But it's a lot easier to just talk to the hypervisor, in this case Proxmox, and that built-in metrics server has all of the information that we need about the individual VMs all in one place. So that's really convenient. And then we can get that into our OpenTelemetry pipeline, and it can go to any of our destinations that we have set up. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. One other thing I recently added, because I saw a blog post on, I think, the OpenTelemetry blog about it, was the log dedupe processor. There were some, I have some very repetitive logs from some of my Proxmox nodes that are, I don't know why, but intermittently failing to connect to the remote OpenTelemetry collector. And now I'm able to deduplicate those and just see them every 10 seconds and not have to store them every second. Okay, so the OpenTelemetry collector is pretty awesome, right? As I showed, you can use it as either in agent mode or gateway mode, or combine both to great effect. You can run it as a container, right, in Kubernetes or in any kind of Docker compatible runtime, or you can just run it as a simple binary. Both are very convenient, and I'm actually using both on the Proxmox nodes. I'm just running it as a binary. The gateway collector is running as a container on the NixOS VM. It has a bunch of built-in monitoring. This is awesome. It can be turned on as either Prometheus exporters, so like metrics endpoints that you can scrape with any kind of Prometheus compatible agent, or it can sort of throw its own monitoring into your OTLP pipeline and any kind of exporters that you have hooked up in your metrics pipeline. And then do as I say, not as I do. So I'm using the contrib collector right now. I need to fix that. I need to actually build my own collectors. It would be a lot more efficient. Don't use the contrib collector. If I did build my own collectors, these are the extensions that I would need to include. These are the ones that I'm using. So the OTLP receiver is mostly enabling collectors to talk to each other. I'm excited for that to maybe be the Arrow protocol in the future. Stay tuned for that. I'm using the influx receiver, of course, to translate those Proxmox InfluxDB metrics. I'm using the journald receiver for my Proxmox logs. I was messing around with the syslog receiver because I'm old school. That was kind of a mess, and I gave up, and journald was a lot easier. So at least on the version of Debian that Proxmox is running, journald was easier. Host metrics receiver, which is replacing the Prometheus node exporter. Resource detection processor, which really is only adding one tag to my telemetry, which is the host of the Proxmox node that the telemetry is coming from. I don't know how much overhead that processor is adding, or if I'd be better off just like replacing that with a manually applied transformation. Batch processor, Does what it says on the tin. Log dedupe processor is awesome. Just found out about it. We're using the OTLP exporter. That's to talk to other collectors and also to export to Loki. Open protocol compatibility across tools is awesome. I can't wait for more and more tools to support OTLP natively. And then, of course, I'm using the ClickHouse exporter to get the data into SQL, into ClickHouse, and I'm using the Prometheus exporter because I love duplicating data and trying out multiple things and comparing them because I'm a nerd about this stuff. So when you put it all together, here's what I actually have now. So the little blue boxes are OpenTelemetry collectors in agent mode. And then we have the gateway collector running on my monitoring VM. We have all of my duplicated data stores. We have some of the data being duplicated between Prometheus and ClickHouse, as well as between Loki and ClickHouse, because I've got logs and metrics going into ClickHouse. We've got the metrics from InfluxDB to being duplicated across InfluxDB, Prometheus, as well as ClickHouse. But it's fun, and I get to compare things, and eventually I'll simplify this, and I'll show what my plan is for what that's going to look like. Right now, I don't have any monitoring of the VMs. As I said, I'm getting by just sort of SSHing into them. I plan to eventually add OTel collectors in agent mode on some of the key VMs, and those can either talk to the collectors that are on the local Proxmox host, or they can talk directly to sort of my central gateway. Because I don't have that many VMs, I think I'll probably opt to have them talking to the central gateway and just sort of have the agent collectors responsible for doing agent things and the gateway collector responsible for doing pipeline things. And then yes, so for the monitoring of the collectors themselves, I am using the Prometheus metrics endpoint and having Prometheus scrape those. I like using both methodologies, right? So I have telemetry flowing in the OpenTelemetry OTLP push methodology, and then I have some calls going back the other way for the Prometheus pull scrape methodology. And because I futz with my tail scale settings all the time, having both gives me assurances that I haven't broken connectivity in either direction, which is sort of a nice added redundancy, and also just like having the monitoring of the pipeline outside of the pipeline itself, to me, just feels a little bit better. There are some other benefits to just using Prometheus, or just using InfluxDB, or like just using these things with their sort of out-of-the-box tools. Besides the ability to use push or pull methodologies, if we're talking about Prometheus, you do get like a huge library of off-the-shelf dashboards if you're just using these tools in sort of the off-the-shelf way. And some of those dashboards can break if you have an OpenTelemetry collector in the middle, because the OpenTelemetry collector will tend to take things from sort of the native attributes that tool expects and put them into the OTel resource attributes format, which ultimately I think is great, and everything should be in that format, and tools should just converge on being compatible with that. But in the meantime, there's a lot of dashboards and off-the-shelf things that are just not compatible with that format yet. And so there are some benefits to sort of using these tools in the default way. However, I'm finding that I don't really need those off-the-shelf dashboards so much anymore, because coding assistants are so powerful. And then when you combine them strategically with a few MCPs, right, you don't want to be hooking up tons of MCPs because it uses up all your context. But if you hook up just a few MCPs, the coding agents are really, really good at building out dashboards. So I use the Grafana MCP to directly access and modify Grafana dashboards. The ClickHouse MCP, so that the tool that's writing those queries for those Grafana dashboards can examine the schema before it writes the query. The OpenTelemetry MCP is really powerful. And the agents can even hook into a running collector and just observe the telemetry in real time, which is really powerful for debugging things. And then again, when you combine all of this with Ansible inventory, declarative configurations for the servers, and a coding assistant, it's just so much better. It gives you context engineering instead of prompt engineering. So you still have to babysit the coding assistants, but you don't have to spend as much time telling them exactly what you want to do, because all the context is there. So some future plans, and then I'll wrap up and we can move over to Q&A. But as I mentioned, I need some agents on my VMs, especially for the container logs and metrics. It'd be nice to have all of my container logs centralized in one place. And sometimes I do need to look at which containers are using up the most resources. Right now I have that in Prometheus instances running locally on those Docker VMs. I would love to have high availability with Kubernetes, especially for the OTel Collector, because if collectors or data stores are down, it can cause the upstream collectors to stall. And if one exporter stalls, it can cause all of the exporters to stall. So it's really good to just make sure those are always available and not dropping telemetry or choking up the rest of the pipeline when one component is down. I do need to eventually eliminate those dual writes so that I'm not storing the same data across 3 different databases. That's fun for experiments, but it is wearing the heck out of my consumer SSDs. I'm going to add, I think, like a meta monitoring stack, either in Kubernetes or on a separate VM. But I need to monitor the monitoring stack, and I want it to be outside of the monitoring stack. I'll show what that's going to look like. And then I want to add application-specific metrics, right? Like if these were production applications with real users, I would have things like SLOs that would tell me what the user experience of using that application is. But these things don't have a bunch of users. I'm the sole user for most of these services. So I don't have like traffic or anything like that I can look at to make sure that the thing is healthy. But I do want to make sure that my data is safe. And so I want to introduce some custom metrics to some of these services. Maybe they're already there. Maybe I just need to find a way to expose them in Prometheus or OpenTelemetry format. But things like the number of photos that I have in image or the number of successful backups that I've had for Proxmox Backup Server, I think would be really useful. Okay, so here's kind of my long-term or near-term vision for where I'm going with this. I have my monitoring VM simplified down to just using ClickHouse as a data store. We still have Grafana. That arrow should technically be going the other way because Grafana is sending SQL queries to ClickHouse. And then we have the MCP, which is my new favorite way to interact with data. It's just like get the data into a SQL compatible database and then use an MCP server to examine the data. It's awesome. And then we have a meta monitoring VM, which is running a separate copy of Grafana, as well as Prometheus or Prometheus compatible thing like Victoria Metrics or Loki or Victoria Logs. I want this VM to use as little memory as possible because I don't know if you've seen, but memory is insanely expensive these days, and I don't have a lot. But I do want to have these services running separately in case anything happens with the monitoring VM. And then, of course, you can see I have Prometheus monitoring the metrics coming off of all of the various OTel Collector instances. And like I said, it's kind of nice to have like collectors doing agent things or gateway things, but not both. So that's why I have 2 collectors running on the monitoring VM. One as an agent for all the logs from the services running on that VM, and one as the actual gateway. Okay, so I wrote a blog post that kind of summarizes everything that I just talked about. These are all of my socials. Would love to have questions about this in the Altinity community Slack if that's interesting to you, especially if you want to talk more about the ClickHouse stuff. And yeah, now I think we can open it to Q&A.
Oh, Adriana, you're muted.
Thank you. I was going to say, I think we do have some questions from the chat that we could post on here.
I think looks like Henrik has put one up. What does meta monitoring mean exactly?
Oh, I just mean monitoring of my monitoring. Maybe it's not the scientifically accurate use of the word, but yeah, that's all I mean by that.
Thank you.
Oh, and Henrik has posted a.
Is this is better than the one the InfluxDB receiver in Contrib? Because I was having some issues with that. I think it was like using a very specific version of the protocol. Didn't have wide compatibility. I will have to check that out, Henrik.
There was a question from Henrik also. Are you using the cluster API?
I'm not using the cluster API. I would like to. Yeah, something that I need to have. Something that I'd like to have is sort of just like a management Kubernetes cluster that's running things like Atlantis and Flux for managing all of any other things that I want to have. Because there's so many of these things that sort of require a bootstrapped Kubernetes cluster as the first step. And I would probably run that as like a single node worker and control plane and just use Proxmox high availability for it. so that it doesn't use up too many resources. From the VM of Proxmox, you simply enable influx monitoring and you'll get all the data. Yeah, that's what I did. I just you can do it from the Proxmox UI or from the command line. I used an Ansible play that does it from the command line, but you just point it at either an InfluxDB database or an OTel receiver that's exposing an InfluxDB compatible API. What are the main reasons for not using Contrib? Well, I am using Contrib, but you shouldn't use Contrib because you should build a version that has exactly the extensions that you need instead of coming bloated with all the extensions. There's like 90 or more extensions in Contrib. It's huge. Sorry, I'm trying to get all these. They're coming in really fast.
Oh, no worries. Henry will put them up on the screen.
Okay. Cool. There's a lot. I love how much you guys all enjoyed this and have questions about it. What kinds of alerts and how do you manage the thresholds? No alerts right now. I'm using Up10 Kuma, so I just get an alert like if something is actually all the way down. I would love to have alerts on things like disk space, but it's just sort of there on my dashboard when I log in every day and I look at it, and my stuff doesn't move quickly enough to I need anything more than that. I also don't really have any kind of application monitoring. Like all of the applications are third party, so I don't have any tracing to speak of because they're not applications that I developed, so tracing wouldn't really be that useful to me. Let's see. Any other questions, Henrik, that we should focus on? Did I see any increase in my electricity bill? No, these things are insanely efficient. Like I think the whole rack behind me with 5 nodes on it is like, averages something around 60 or 70 watts. So very, very efficient. Like a whole rack of many PCs is equivalent to like a single gaming PC tower. The latest 2 generations of Intel CPUs have been really, really good at energy efficiency. Do I do any metrics aggregation, for example, by dropping entries like service.instance.id on the collectors? No, I don't think that I do. I don't drop attributes. I probably should, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that was the question that was just answered.
Yeah. Henrik asked, I'm using Claude Code. Have I tried OpenClaw on a VM? No, I plan to. And that's one of the nice things about having this Proxmox setup is that if I want to try something like OpenClaw, I can give it a little confined sandbox to play in and watch what it's doing before I give it access to more things. I cannot believe that people are just like running it on their personal laptop or desktop or in an EC2 instance that they're exposing to the world. People are going to people. Homelab is like Lego. It's absolutely like Lego, although I have found I tend to tweak too much. Like in software, you can kind of like refactor as you go. And that's a really good muscle to have, that like anytime you touch something, you're like, oh, I'm going to improve this. And maybe I don't have time to like tackle this whole thing. So I'm just going to kind of like leave a pointer to this thing that I need to come back and fix later. Doing that with hardware just leads to stuff looking really messy for years. So like complete projects is my advice on the Lego front. I have not used EDOT, the Elastic Distribution of Telemetry Collector. In general, I would probably have a preference for distributions that are from the source side more than the destination side. So like if you're heavily using AWS, then I can see a reason to use the ADOT. I'm less inclined to think that you'd want to lock yourself into a specific distribution because of the source or because of the data destination, because there's so many destinations that you might use with OpenTelemetry.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit controversial, right? On do you use a distro? Do you use upstream?
Distro. And I mean, I think it really is up to what works best for you. So like, as an example, if you're already using like a backend and you're trying to migrate, it might make migration easier in the short term to just put in the vendor collector distribution or distro while you like continue migrating, and then, but yeah.
Yeah. No,
You
and
can,
like I know Alloy is really, really popular in Home Labs and other collector distributions. That's the beauty of OTLP, right? Is that we all get to use the implementation that works for us, and it's still compatible with the other tools for the most part.
Yeah, and I think it depends too on like how far these distros stray from upstream. So I think it becomes a matter of like, what's your personal preference, what kind of future proofing you want to do. I think when you're messing around with a home lab, you probably have a little bit more freedom versus when you're like in an enterprise. I know some organizations will offer, some vendors will offer their own distro of an OTel Collector because then they also provide a support for that collector, which I know a lot of large enterprises, they want to throw money at somebody in case stuff breaks. So then that could be a compelling reason. It really, but I think at the end of the day, there's no right answer, right? It's like you do whatever suits your organization or you personally best, right?
Yeah. And as you said, for a home lab, right, like my SLA is me being like annoyed that my stuff is down. So yeah, I have flexibility to mess around with whatever I want.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and which means that you can, if you wanted to, you could mess around with all these like different vendor distributions. And hey, fun blog post idea for you, Josh. Mess around with different vendor distros.
This was something that came up in OTel Unplugged, is like, because I have these like chains of collectors, and like that empowers more experimentation because I can kind of like, I would love a thing that just tags like this collector was here. Anytime a collector transforms some telemetry and forwards it, just like, so like there's already the instrumentation scope, which shows the SDK that originally emitted the telemetry. And I just want like a history of all the collectors that touched it as like a flag that you can turn on in the collectors. I think that would be cool. I could probably set that up with OTTL, but it'd be nice to just have like a flag that's like, mark your territory or something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think we had a question on rum.
Yeah, that
yeah, that's in the category of stuff that I don't mess with in my home lab. It's very application focused. I also do not mess with synthetics. Well, okay, I have poor man's synthetics. I have Uptime Kuma, which is like very, very basic, like hitting endpoints and making sure that I get a 200 back, which is a form of synthetics.
Yeah, I think for
Ricardo's point about the collectors is a really good point.
Sorry, which point was that?
That some vendors are embedding vendor specific processors and exporters that are required for their backend to work properly.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so Rufus asks, for someone getting started as a hobby and interested in creating my home lab, are there any tutorials or online references you would recommend for a beginner? I don't have like specific tutorials. I would say like getting K3S up and running is a really good goal that kind of will force you to learn a lot of the different layers from like networking through to virtualization and containerization. I would follow like Jeff Geerling and Network Chuck are like two of my favorite creators on YouTube who have really great educational and introductory content. Tech World with Nana is another good one. If your goal of having the home lab is to learn DevOps stuff that you're going to apply at work, like you're like enterprise tools, which is admittedly completely overkill for what I'm actually doing with my home lab, right? Like the only reason I'm using these tools is because I want to learn them and know them better. Then yeah, those are really good resources. Am I open to a combo offline? Yes. If you mean after this chat, yeah, feel free to hit me up on like Blue Sky or LinkedIn. Happy to chat more. Oh, Henrik says check his video. Is that in relation to getting started with Home Lab? Yeah, probably Henrik's video is a really good starting point. I haven't actually seen that one yet, Henrik. I need to check that out.
Yeah, Henrik's videos are always like super top notch, so definitely recommend. Yeah, Henrik, is it? Do you want? Is it observable channel that we should direct folks to check any of your content? Oh, he says yes. So yeah, check out Is It Observable on YouTube for Henrik's super top-notch videos on digging deep into all the things tech, all the things cloud native, I would say.
There is someone who had said we can do RUM using OTel Public Facing Collector, and they've completed this POC with a web app. I'd be interested in looking at that more if you can hit us up on OTel Slack, please.
Can you share example config for the afternoon with not losing data and what time periods for different data point sets overlap?
I managed to achieve something that looks happy.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, okay, metrics are just fraud. Like, metrics are really tricky because every tool kind of has its own internal representation of the metrics, and they're not necessarily the same as what you sampled or recorded. I think I would need more to answer that, but also I would say that coding assistants are really valuable here if you can give them access to the feedback loop, right? So if you're having this problem, if you can get it into a database that the coding assistant has access to and can check its work, it can just iterate on that and kind of give you a diagnosis on exactly what's going on and maybe how to fix it as well. Yeah, it's like that's one of those things where like you need to do like a binary search through the scenarios, and coding assistants are great for that. Cool. More questions?
Going once, going twice. No, I'm kidding.
They were really rolling in, man.
Yeah, it was like
good stuff.
I was like, holy cow! All right,
yeah.
I love to nerd out about this stuff. So like, yeah, please do hit me up on any of the social medias or on Slack. And if you have questions about my home lab, you may find you get a longer answer than you bargained for.
And if you don't come up with good questions until after, way after the session, you are so welcome to find any of us in CNCF Slack, any of the OTel whatever channels. There's a main open telemetry one. We can also, Adriana and I can also be found in the OTel SIG End User channel. I believe all this information will be in the show notes afterward. And there's also a handy QR code up as well. So if you have questions for Josh, or you want to know anything else about OTel, definitely please reach out to us. We are more than happy to help.
Yeah, I'm in all of these Slack channels. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't know where to go, because there are a lot of channels, or where your question might best fit in, we can help direct you as well. Thank you so much, Josh.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to make a plug also for anyone who's interested in doing one of these OTel in practice. If you have an OTel topic that you want to nerd out on, share with the community, please reach out to us in that OTel End User SIG channel. We would absolutely love to have you. Also, if you're going to be at KubeCon EU, come say hello to us in the OTel Observatory. We will be there. And like I said, we are looking for humans of OTel. Anybody who is a practitioner, maintainer, contributor, thank you. We would absolutely love to hear from you. And yeah, I think Manish asked links to the Slack channel. I think, Henrik, can you flash the link to the OTel End User SIG Slack channel once again?
If you're not already in the CNCF Slack, you just have to sign up for it. It's really easy. Just put in your email and then you get an invite, you create an account, and then voila, the whole world is opened up for you.
Yes.
Oh, we will also have another, we have been very blessed with in February so far. We will also have another OTel in practice session next week. It's going to be around eBPF.
Yes.
So come check it out.
Yes, please
I'm adding
do.
that
And
to
we
my
also
future plans list.
and the other thing too is we also do OTel. It's called OTel Me. It's an interview style Q&A type of thing. And so if you're using OTel in your organization and want to showcase it, please reach out to us in the End User SIG channel as well. It's very low touch, low effort, so you don't have to prepare a presentation for that one. Just answer some lovely questions from us. But yeah, we would love to share that. And also the OTel End User SIG meeting is starting in 15 minutes. So if anyone wants to join, you can absolutely do that.
What?
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you so much, Josh, for coming on. It's been a long time coming. I know we've been talking about this for a while, so I'm glad we finally made this happen. This was awesome.
Yes, this is so much fun.
Yay.
Yay. And thank you all for being